Board of Adjustments membership solution. I've worked with Porter on this and we are in agreement, but it's really a request of you. So I will make a motion now that we request the mayor remove all Board of Adjustment members and alternate members for the cause of irreconcilable membership records per RSMO 89080. Further, we would recommend that the mayor immediately nominate a new slate of members and alternate members comprised of current members and Porter Elliott with terms appropriately staggered as described in section 405-030 and so distribute as the mayor sees fit. It's the intention of this motion to make these appointments at the next available meeting of the council. Basically, wipe it clean, reboot it as it's described. There's no question then about membership, who's on it, what their terms are, etc. And get it all done in a few minutes.
Second.
So that's a motion and a second discussion, I guess.
Can we do that tonight?
If the mayor is ready to have them staggered and stuff, but
I
I
would
figured you want
have
to
to
look
go,
at that.
I'd have to look at the list and then
Okay.
bring it back to
Okay.
the next meeting. I
Okay.
can't do that. It's too many committees. I have no objections if that's what the council's pleasure is.
Call the
Motion made and seconded. No more discussion. Call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Neener?
Yes.
Mr. Paulus?
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Will be it. Anything else under old business?
I have one item. I need to know what how the council would like me to proceed with the situation with the 401 Georgia Street. Upon attempting to get a clear warranty deed, several liens had surfaced. We've managed to clear one of them, but there are also two outstanding liens through the state of Missouri for sales and use tax. Probably by the time they get to adding the penalty on them, they will be up to $2,000. My question to the council is, would we like to lower the asking price? I don't know that, and I would have to ask the city attorney, but I don't believe that we can utilize city funds to pay these outstanding liens in order to clear that pathway so that she could pursue purchasing of it. So
What was her bid on the building? 1,200?
1,200.
1,200.
But these are liens against a building that we own, that the city owns, right?
Well, actually, they're against Sterling Point LLC,
Which is defunct.
which is defunct.
So
And today we talked to the Lorenzinis and everybody else, and they aren't gonna pay
I
it.
was gonna say, I knew where that was.
So,
They've agreed to release their judgment, but not
yeah, they're
pay the
releasing
tax.
their judgment, but they're not gonna pay his taxes on his buildings.
So are you gonna ask Ms. Kelly to pay him if we reduce the cost of it, or?
That would be my suggestion, and see if she's agreeable to do that.
but we own a property that isn't clear and free, is the situation, right?
It's still encumbered.
And we are encumbered by
Right.
that.
Well,
And I would need Robert's opinion.
encumbered, you're not encumbered.
Okay.
I have a question. We had 3 properties that we received. Why is this the only one that's in question?
Because we did it by quick claim,
The other two we tore down.
and the other two we just
No,
tore down.
Only one, Old Town Center.
That was sold to somebody else. We didn't take that back.
Well, are we, just to rule it out, are we prohibited in some way from paying this and clearing the title so that we can move forward with something with this building?
The liens are for taxes?
Yeah.
Sales tax.
Sales tax
Taxes on the property. which-
attributed to Sterling Point LLC.
Yeah,
Right, which he did not pay And when the city accepted that building, they held it, the taxes and everything else against that property, not so much the city, but that property. And then they sent us a notification that these were out, we don't have a clean title.
We didn't know it until after the fact.
That's
Okay,
correct.
But there was never any commerce in,
There shouldn't have been any sales tax.
there should not have been any sales tax.
No,
And
none
and we've
whatsoever.
contacted the state and they said they will not relinquish that unless those taxes are paid.
So the
The
question
cleanest way
stands,
is to change the sales price to adjust that.
but we don't have enough in the sales price to make this. What happens if we made it 0?
They're still gonna wind up paying an additional $800, $900.
Will they waive some penalties if we get it done right away?
No.
I would
Doesn't
say
hurt to
that
ask.
we should let Bob negotiate with the person that made the bid on the property.
I just wanna know how you want me to
Council
proceed.
waiver the $1,100 or $1,200 that she bid on it and tell her that she can have it for paying the penalties on this.
And then even in the meantime, Robert can check and see if we can or cannot utilize city funds.
We don't want it back.
No, we do not
No,
want it back.
No, that's what I was trying to avoid.
What I'm
He's
saying,
letting
I'll
that
let
building
Bob
spend much
negotiate
longer
whether
than
if she'll put the other 800.
You can
with it.
find out on that
Take
for me,
it.
Robert.
I don't think you can.
I don't think we can either. Everything that I've looked at says you
Yeah,
cannot
right.
use taxpayer
Taxpayer
funds.
money.
No.
Really for
So
public
basically, she's
funds
gonna
for
be
the
getting,
Right,
benefit of us.
she's gonna be getting a bill.
private individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of 1,200.
Instead of 1,200. So
That
the,
would be my
the
suggestion.
question is she gonna get it for $2,000?
And if that's how you wish me to proceed, I will contact her tomorrow.
I'd like you to make a motion on
I'll
that.
make a motion that we authorize Bob to negotiate down to a 0 sales price if the purchaser will cover this unforeseen cost.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made in a second. Any discussion? If not, call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Niedner?
Yes.
Mr. Polis?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
So be it.
Thank you.
Anybody else before we give me anybody? Okay. Right now, we open the council to visitors in the audience. Anybody that'd like to address us, come forward and state your, Mr. Combs, come up.
One of the things that happens every 3 years, as far as we're concerned in Louisiana, is the revision or the renewal of the MOCAP designations. And that time is present with us. And so the Community Betterment Group would like to ask the council to pass a resolution, and I've already given a copy of this to Sharon, that allows this group to proceed on this matter. We will have a public meeting on Thursday, January the 30th at 6 o'clock at the first floor conference room of the hospital. And we have an alternate date of the next Tuesday in case weather or whatever comes up, but we have set that date. So we're ready to begin. So I'm asking the council for a vote to sign this resolution and send it on to the Department of Economic Development.
Thank you.
What time on the 30th,
6
Reverend Combs?
o'clock.
What's it-
We will probably be talking to some of you again about coming, and Bob, you were there the last time, and so we would like you and any other members of the council to be present.
Okay, thank you, Randall. I'll entertain a motion that we sign the res.
I so moved.
Okay, good. Second by Kathy. Motion was made and second. Call the roll.
Mr. Elliott? Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Niedner?
Yes.
Mr. Polis?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Thank you, Randall.
Thank you very much.
John B.
I would like to talk about a issue we have down beside the restaurant down there across the street, across Fifth Street there. There's a 35-foot area there that's been chained for over a year with no parking signs on it during the day. There's no reason, we'd like the additional parking. We've got a grocery store that's gone in behind us, and he has cabs and lawn equipment, snow plows, and they're all being parked around there, so the parking is really getting to be a major problem. That one extra parking place would, it's not a big item, but it might save some 75-year-old person from walking around the building. I got a ticket there once. It was sent back to me because it was cited that there was no ordinance. I wasn't cited under an ordinance that said I couldn't park there. I was cited for improper passing. Well, it was, the city, whoever handles the city, Joe Brannon sent me a letter saying it had been thrown out because it was not issued properly. So if there's no ordinance for the signs to be there, then I'd like to see that one additional parking place that's.
All right. Go ahead.
Is that where that snow's pushed out in the street?
Right,
You're
that
talking
snow's
about
been piled there since
Yeah.
we had the snow.
The sidewalk. in
It
the
was
street.
pushed off of the lot up there and piled there, which I used to remove it before those signs went up. And I got the equipment and I come to town and scoop it up and haul it away. I helped several of the businesses around that area, around the 2 or 3 blocks there that I could get to. But it just, there's no need to have it, but he'll call and have somebody come to tow it.
What I'd like to do on this issue, I'd like to have Jimmy Gott, John B., the chief of police, and our lawyers sit in with the Streets and Alley Committee to come up with a resolution for this problem.
We don't want to cause any problems for our neighbors. We'd just like to have that additional.
And I think what I'll do is I'll have talk with the city attorney and see when he can be available for this conversation, and I'll call each one of you and have you come to sit with a meeting with this Streets and Alley Committee, and then they can make a ruling, and the chief will also be there.
Yeah, we're allowed to park where the back driveway is. There's a back driveway that's open during the day. After 5, we can park back there. The front one needs to be kept open because if you get a tow job somewhere and they say, well, I want to take it to Gott's to be repaired, they have to be able to get in the lot to drop the car off because there's nobody there. So they drop it off and leave it, and the next day they know to repair it. But and I can understand that, and we've had people park there. I mean, we try not, I'll go in, if I see it, I'll go in and, who's parked out here? You need to move it, this needs to stay open. So,
Let's do that and put it to rest.
yeah,
But it's been ever since I've been there, and prior to me being there was an issue. So it went back, how long has it been, Jim, this issue?
8 years.
8 years, so it's been under 2 mayors' administration. So let's get it resolved
okay.
for
Well,
both
I
parties.
appreciate it, and I'm available, like I said, just give me a little notice and I'll be available to be wherever you want me to, whenever you want me to.
Yeah, but you go in, how quick for your operation?
Oh, I'm going for surgery on the 28th of February.
Oh, we'll have it before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if it takes till after.
Agreeable with you, Jim?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, John B.
I thank you for your time.
Mr. Mayor, the resolution's simple, just take the signs down. Your city code says you cannot have one without the other. You gotta have the ordinance and the sign.
That's what we're discussing now, for. That's what we're
Well,
gonna
actually,
do.
legally, the only thing you gotta do is, I told them years ago when they put that sign up, you've gotta have an ordinance. They didn't believe me, they didn't bother reading it.
Are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Porter, let's hear from the chief.
You might want to reference our ordinance. I'm allowed certain powers as the chief of police for traffic engineering. Then there's state law and city ordinance that says that 30 feet from any intersection you may not park. Any public drive or private drive you may not park. So when we look at that intersection down there, I agree we can sit down and all of us try to come up with a plan. But any property owner has the free right ingress or egress from their property. And that's what we're talking about, a second drive to the back part of the property. Is that right?
No, actually, he's wanting to block my front drive. The only drive I've got to get in.
And if we go through the city, because there's a parking problem all downtown, but if we went 30 feet from every intersection, we're going to lose a lot of parking now.
That's why we're gonna have the streets and alley and these two gentlemen and you with Mr. Rapp and come up with a solution.
Yeah, there's two drives there, and we don't block either one of them during the day, and we do park in front of the other one, but the sign says we can.
Right.
After 5.
Right.
But there's a space of 35 feet between the two drives there's no use of it for the last year. There's been a chain across it.
Okay.
And it's 30 feet away from the intersection. It's more than 30 feet away from the intersection. We don't want to block the man's business. I mean, that's,
We'll have the streets and alleys and the chief and you all together and we'll work up a resolution. We'll work up something that'll be agreeable with both of you. Okay.
appreciate your time. Thank you much.
You bet. Mike Leslie.
I think I got enough of these made for everybody. Huh? Yeah. I need papers that aren't slick. As you see, this is signed by everybody on the fire department with the exception of one gentleman who is out of town. And it says, attention Mayor Tom Wallace, Bob Jenny, City Council, on November 1st of 2013, Mike Chister called me, himself informed me that Bart Niedner had just left his house. He explained that Bart Niedner had been asking him questions about the firing of Mr. Rubino. This is evident that Bart Niedner does not follow the change of command. Shortly after I got off the phone with Mr. Chister, Bart Niedner came into Leslie's Hallmark to talk to me about the firing of Mr. Rubino. I informed Mr. Nieder that his objective to meeting that he had met with Mr. Chister and had not placed to divulge his matter. On November 23rd, I was asked to meet with Mr. Rubino at City Hall at 8:30 to see if we could resolve this issue. Those that attended the meeting were Mr. Nieder, Jenna, Mr. Charlton, Mr. Rubino, and myself. Again, Mr. Nieder, in my opinion, was beyond the scope of his duties as City Council member and should not have been there. In the fire department opinion, Mr. Bart Nieder has stepped over his duties as City Council members and should be reprimanded for his actions in this case. This is solely dealt with disciplinary and employees such falls under Mr. Jenna. We would also like Mr. Nieder removed from City Council and Fire Committee. We feel that his actions have not the fire department's best interest. This was signed by everybody but one fireman. That fireman was out of town.
Okay. All I can say on this here is all the firemen have said this. I'm, as far as removing Mr. Nieder from the fire committee, I won't do that because he is a councilman and my term ends in April. And there'll be a new man sitting in this chair, and they will pick the committees and select the chairperson also. So I hope the firemen will bear with me for the next 90 days and see the new list that comes out. but we thank you for coming forward.
Should we address?
You can address that, yes, Mr. Degner.
Well, first I'd like to say I'm terribly sorry that I've offended the fire department this way and that they feel that it was necessary to write such a letter and address this instead of speaking with me about it. I'm very open to discussing it, and I'm sorry you don't feel that I've had your best interests in mind. I certainly feel that I have. I can speak specifically to a couple of these things. The first one is that I don't follow chain of command, or that in some way speaking to Mike that day was somehow out of line. That recommendation came from your boss, Bob Jenny, when I said I was going to speak with Mike Leslie, the chief, on the policy issue. My whole involvement in this, as I stated in the meeting, has been simply limited to the policy aspect of this, for which I am, as a councilman, completely responsible with the rest of this council. I've only acted on behalf of policy. But I went to Mike Chidster because Bob suggested that would be a good opinion to have when I talked with Mike Leslie. That's why I went there. If that isn't following chain of command, I'm not sure what is. And as for my presence at these meetings, again, the question that we're dealing with is that the policies in the bylaws, the process by which a member is removed from the fire department, are not in line with the process that's described in the employee manual. So my concern, and correct me if I'm wrong, but everything that I've done in any official capacity has been geared towards an effort to bring those bylaws into alignment with the employee handbook. And that's it.
I think Mr. Jim and I got that in mind.
Right, and it's on my list to represent the fire department tonight by indicating that was well underway. So I don't understand where it is that I've been out of the scope of my duties or failed to follow the chain of command. Of course, the much larger issue is that somehow I have lost the confidence of the fire department, which of course is personally terribly painful. I've tried to serve you the best that I can and only been involved in particular when there was a big issue that needed to be addressed that was a policy issue. And I've tried to do that very fairly. So I'm certainly glad to know it. I didn't know it. And I'd love to understand. I don't understand. I have a hard time reconciling that in some way I was not following the chain of command or acting beyond the scope of my responsibilities to you in the city of Louisiana.
Command structures me, my assistant chief, my first captain, and then my second captain, Ms. Byron, and you skipped three of us, you went right down to Mike.
Did I?
I mean, you deliberately went right to him, contacted him, went over to his house, talked to him, without even asking me anything about it whatsoever previously to that.
Did I think you've missed, with all due respect, Chief Leslie, I believe that you've missed one person in chain of command.
No, I know Mr. Jenna's over all this.
And Mr. Jenna is the one who gives me access to employees. And Mr. Jenna is Jenny is the one who suggested that I speak with your sub beforehand. I don't see where I broke chain of command. I am supposed to ask Mr. Jenny, and I did, and I suggested I was going to meet with you. And Bob suggested that I also have, in advance of speaking with you, that I have another point of view. And so that's what I did. Had I known that it would upset you in any way, or any of the fire department,
You knew
I
that day
wouldn't.
when you and I talked, it upset me hard.
I knew what?
You knew that day when you came in and talked to me, it upset me.
After the fact, yes. it certainly was not my intention to go behind your back in some way. I went immediately to you after Mike, which was what I was directed to do by our city administrator.
I'd like to say something in this while we're discussing it. We have an ordinance, Bart, that says that these firemen or the workers, you can't go to them direct, they can't come to you direct. That's an ordinance.
Correct.
And nobody, myself, Mr. Jenner, nobody has a right to violate that ordinance.
Oh, I disagree. It doesn't say that we can't have access or communicate. In fact, that's absolutely not the purpose of that ordinance. The purpose is that, and the language in it is that we not interfere with the duties. We can have a conversation, we can solicit information, we can't interfere with the duties.
Right.
But when I went to Mr. Jenny, as I do frequently, if we're working on the budget stuff and I need to speak with Christina or whatever, I ask, hey, while we're working on this, can I speak with these employees? And he says yes. Certainly that is the way that the council is supposed to respond.
I'm agreeing with that point, but your first obligation was to talk to the chief. And,
I disagree. I think my first obligation was to talk to Mr. Jenny.
well, it's a matter of opinion, but the ordinance clearly states that the councilman will not interfere with any workman. And for them coming to your house or you going to their house, you know.
It does, the ordinance does not say anything about going to houses.
No, but let me finish.
Well, then
Would
finish
you go-
accurately, please.
Okay, I am finishing accurately. Would you go to their house and you talk to them,
Which I haven't done.
or
Which I
they
haven't
didn't
done.
come to your house?
I have been visited.
Yeah. Actually, it should go through the chain of command. If they didn't have the permission to come to you through the chain of command, they violated the chain of command.
Well, then talk to them. I mean, what I've been, in terms of this issue, a fireman came to me as chair of the fire committee and said, this is my circumstance, what are the policies relating to my circumstance? I said, I don't know, I will go find out, which I did, and then I communicated that back. That's all I did. In terms of any other communication, it was directly through Mr. Jenny. But the bigger issue is I'm surprised, I'm stunned, I'm startled, and I apologize that I have so bereaved the fire department, who I was sincerely trying to give my every best effort. So I apologize to you, and I don't know about leaving the committee or whatever, but I would hope that over time we could heal that relationship. It's certainly not my intent.
Well, I already explained on the committees, you'll stand as chairperson of the fire committee because you're appointed annually for 1 year. So they will stand on that. Anything else? Thank you. Is there anybody else that'd like to address the council? Yes, come up, Ms. Turner.
Hi. I'd like to request a couple of dates for Leo in the future, in the summer. One being a street fundraiser for around September. And the other one being using the riverfront around June the 14th for a walk with Jesus and a gospel sing.
Ms. Turner, I understand that Leo's defunct.
No, it is not. We're full blowing.
Okay, well, you need to bring me a CO 501C
Got it.
or a non-for-profit application, and then we'll address the council with that after you do this.
Sounds good. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Anybody else like to address the council? If not, we'll go on. Reading, hearing petitions, other communications. Okay, committee reports, finance.
Finance Committee, I called the meeting to order at 5:30 with myself, Mr. Niedner, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Wood, President, as well as Mr. Jenny, Mayor Wallace, Mr. Rapp, and Ms. Johnson. I made a motion to approve the minutes of the December 9th meeting, seconded by Mr. Stevens, all voting yea. Mr. Niedner made a motion to bring before the council paying warrant 112-2013 through 118-2013 and 001-2014 through 003-2014 in the amount of $286,322.74, seconded by Mr. Stevens, all voting yea. I make a motion to vote on approving that to be paid
Okay.
in full.
Do we have a second by Kathy? Motion made and second, call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Niedner?
Yes.
Mr. Paulus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Nay.
Mr. Wood?
Nay. Motion carried.
May I ask why, what the objection was? Just to get,
Well,
so it fix any problems?
and me.
Yeah, you don't have to share. I was asking
Yeah,
if there
let's
was-
not get into a question and answer. They voted nay, so be it.
Okay.
Motion
I can't
passed.
help fix something I don't know what the problem is. So,
Let's go. Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Niedner asked about the amendment of section 715.030 and 715.090. Mr. Rapp will get back to us. Mr. Niedner stated that the mid-year budget revisions were made by departments and asked if there were any questions on them. Mr. Niedner made a motion to bring before the full council approving the mid-year budget revisions, seconded by Mr. Stevens, all voting yea. I make a motion to approve the mid-year budget revisions.
Second.
Motion made and second, call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Niedner?
yes?
Mr. Paulus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Niedner asked about how we can get the funds budgeted every year to roll over for the equipment. Bob will get with Wade Stables on this and have something to us by next month. Mr. Jenny will ask Wade Stables about how to draw funds from the water department to go to the general fund as well. Bart asked about the appropriation of funds and line items in the red that should be addressed on a regular basis. Sharon stated there's a bill for Klinger Associates for $17,257.92. And Lehman Construction LLC in the amount of $89,572.50 for a total of $108,830.42 for the wastewater plant construction. I make a motion to pay that bill in full to Klinger and Lehman.
Do I have a second?
A second?
Motion made and second, call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Niedner?
Yes.
Mr. Paulus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Nay.
Mr. Wood?
Nay. Motion passed.
I made a motion to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Niedner, all voting yea. Meeting adjourned at 5:50 p.m.
Thank you. Fire committee, sir.
We didn't have a fire committee meeting because we didn't have a quorum. They do have a question, when is the fire marshal's report on the Miller fire expected? We'd expected that a month or more ago.
It's been received.
It has? When will
Yes.
the council get copies of that?
I'll be happy to provide you with that. Wednesday, I'll be out of, on Wednesday, I'll be out of town tomorrow in
Okay.
Macon, so not a problem.
Would other councilmen like a copy of that report? Revisions to the fire department's bylaws are underway by Mike and Bob. Bob's keeping me in the loop, and I wanted to thank Bob for handling that and helping keep the policies in line. 2 firemen are no longer with the department, and I don't believe there's any other significant business to report, but I'm clearly not the best one to ask. So, that's all I have for fire.
Okay, thank you. Police committee.
Call the police committee meeting to order. Make a motion, we approve the minutes from our December police committee meeting. I have a second. All those in favor? Motion carried. We did not have a police committee meeting this month because we did not have a quorum. A couple of things I would like to mention is that we are one officer short now. We had one officer move away from here. And the dispatchers, comp time is, most of those people are maxed out on comp time, so that gets to be a real problem. We need to come up with a compensation package for them and not grant all this comp time. And this is not a broken record, but we have cars that have problems. The 210 Chevy has a transmission problem. The Dodge front end is bad. The chief's car has an electrical short that we haven't been able to track down as yet. And the detective's car is just limping along. So those are problems we are going to be facing. Chief, would you like to add?
I'm going to introduce Officer Bernie. He is our other new officer that has not met yet. Officer Bernie, you want to introduce yourself, tell them where you're from, and
I'm James Bernie. I live in O'Fallon, Missouri, and happy to be working here. I've been here just over a month now, and been enjoying it so far. Been good training. Glad to be here.
Welcome.
You have something else?
And the only other thing, and I'll give it to Dave, is we have seen an increase in counterfeit bills in the area. We're trying to increase that awareness. Paper's been made aware of it. We did pass out informationals to various merchants in town who are receiving cash to review their procedures for checking for those bills and what to do in case they do come in contact with one. 2 different incidents, different people passing. We have been in contact with Secret Service. And then another new scam, another thing for everybody to be aware of. We've seen the ones with Western Union or the prize, you pay money and then they disappear. A new method they're using now is getting you to get a prepaid card, put so much money on it, give them the numbers, and then they're gone again. So just want to get this out to as many people as know that's what we're working right now. We're seeing an increase in the white collar crimes in our area.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone else have anything for police? Bob, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Okay, that's all we have, Tom.
Okay, thank you. Streets and alley.
Being we didn't have a meeting, a committee meeting, there isn't much to go on, but have you checked on leasing equipment yet?
I'm waiting for him to get back with me on that Parks and Cemetery vehicle.
Not all the vehicles?
Well, I mean, I'll start with this one and then see how we, how it fares out.
I think we'd save money with it, I think. That's all I have. Anybody else got anything?
Yeah, I'd like to compliment the boys for the
They
snow
did a good
removal
job.
they did for all the snow and stuff they had.
Did a real good job.
Buildings and grounds.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 9th meeting. I wasn't here last time.
This isn't a council meeting though.
Committee meeting.
Sorry, committee. This isn't a committee meeting.
Council meeting.
You don't need to approve your minutes.
Right. Okay. Skirvin Excavating has submitted a bid for cleanup of the Versus property. The bid's not clear, so it was suggested that Mr. Adams talk with the prosecutor about what is need to be done on these properties. An ordinance has been drawn up for rental property inspections, which will be presented to the ordinance committee in January. Mr. Wood stated that there was an inquiry about the town branch project. Mr. Jenny has set up an appointment, January the 22nd at 9 o'clock with the Corps of Engineers to see what we can do. The permit will have to outline the areas for repair and cleanup, and I think one permit will do it all. And that's all I have.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Or you want to do it on yours?
I can do it under new business.
Talking about the mutual aid thing.
Yeah.
Please.
You want to do that?
It didn't make any difference. Go ahead with it.
I had some questions on some of the stuff you mentioned.
Okay.
On the town branch, did I misunderstand? That's gonna require individual permits with really defined type sections?
Basically,
Can't do it
the
under
Corps,
one permit.
One permit will do it.
the Corps will
Well, no,
dictate what we need. Because, and it depends upon the project.
Are you of the understanding that one permit will let us do everything we need to do to the
It's
town branch?
possible if all we're gonna do is leveling. But
Okay.
in some of the instances, it was suggested that we dig out and excavate some more. In which case, that would be an individual permit
For
per
each-
section based upon,
Okay,
Blanket permit would cover the other.
a blanket permit to level. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on the burst properties, have we already?
yeah, I
accepted
passed,
the
I put a thing in your,
We've got a revised.
we've got a revised
Do we
one that
need
was for
to-
$10,000
Do we need to approve that?
that removed the
This
outbuilding.
needs to be brought up
Right.
on buildings and grounds.
That's why I'm asking.
So I would ask that you make a motion to approve the revised bid from Skirvin.
Does the attorney see anything wrong with that?
We took the house.
Took the
out of it,
outbuildings out of it, is what we
And
did.
this is what he recommended we go with. Or go with,
Yes.
Looked at that.
yes.
That's all.
Okay, I so moved that.
Okay, we have a motion to accept it.
I second
But
that.
I think Kent was to talk with the prosecutor about what's needed to be done on these properties.
He already has talked to him, correct me if I'm wrong, Ken.
No, sir, you're absolutely right. In a court hearing, the prosecutor and the judge ordered to bring them into code compliance, and the question was the buildings. So we went back to the one bid that we got. The demolition company changed their bids, eliminated the buildings, and we'll just clean up the outside area, outside the buildings and the property. And that is the second bid. We dropped his price down quite a bit. And
From 16,000 down to 10,000.
now what the judge said and the prosecutor, they said, and Mr. Rapp also said, buildings. Now, on one of the properties, there is a vehicle, an old mobile home that's not livable. So that stuff is gone. It's leaving. But buildings, permanent structures that have foundations and stuff will not be touched.
Okay?
You have a motion on the floor.
Because that would have to proceed under a different ordinance.
Yeah.
To enforce that.
You have a motion and a second.
I do have a motion.
Well, it's yours to call, right? This
Yeah.
is full council's.
Got a motion and a second, call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Needner?
Yes.
Mr. Paulus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes?
Mr. Wood?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, under building and grounds also, we've got the topic of the commercial inspections. And Kent, I think you'd like to readdress this?
I can't.
That's buildings and grounds.
Yeah, but it's actually an ordinance, it'd have to be an ordinance, Larry.
You should have a copy of the drafted ordinance there.
But I'd like for the council to, on that one, to study it before they pass it. Because right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Kent, you're how many behind in just apartments and housing right now?
About 200.
Yeah, and maybe this should be addressed with the new administration. and hold that until the new administration takes over.
Kent brought this to us.
Yes.
Requesting us to consider
Consider
commercial.
it, but yes, and I seen it tonight for the first time.
Right.
And I'd like some time to look at it, discuss it before we do anything with it. That's my personal opinion.
Did Kent have some urgency for bringing it to us?
Do you have an urgency to bring
No,
in?
I just, as you said, I just wanted you all to start considering that, if I may. Reason being is, our downtown area in the last few years or whatever, we have 61 buildings inside the downtown historical area. 7 of them are now parking lots or empty lots. And so that cuts us down to 54. 3 of the buildings in that area are not code compliant, but the other 51 buildings they're all occupied, either with residential or commercial. Every building, 51 out of 54 buildings downtown are occupied now. And my concern is to start planning for these buildings to some way so we can keep an eye on them. We don't run into what we run into 3 years ago.
Correct.
Your desire is to wait on this ordinance.
Huh?
Your desire is to wait on the
I don't know
penalty
that,
ordinance.
is that an ordinance on the commercial?
I think this
it's just
ordinance
rental.
is a
I
violation.
think that's on rental we
It's
got
only
tonight,
on
yeah.
Right.
And then we'll present that ordinance to the ordinance committee on the commercial next month. Committee, that committee.
What do we want to do with this one? Violation of requirements to obtain rental inspections, a misdemeanor.
That I would like to see. We've had that for the last couple of months. That one I'd like to see the council act on.
I'd like to have a motion. Are you all familiar with this one?
Is that a motion?
Should be done under ordinance.
You don't do ordinances.
Should be done under ordinance and read 3 times.
Right.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Water committee.
We don't have a quorum for January, so there was not a meeting, and I will ask next month to approve the minutes of December, at that time in February, so I don't really have any business other than, I heard we lost some chemicals due to freezing. Has anybody heard anything about that?
I have not.
I have not. At least none of the department heads have made me aware of it.
You wouldn't know that. That's all. We didn't have any meeting in
Okay.
January, so.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Grant committee.
Once again, we didn't have a meeting because there was no quorum. Mr. Diener had sent me some information on on some grants, transportation grants, which I forwarded on to TC. Here you go. Do you want to tell them what you've done on this, TC?
What's the, you guys have a copy of an ordinance tonight? It's in an MOU for SKW to do the application for the city, submitted to MoDOT. It's for the school zone safety area, and I'm meeting with him on Wednesday. A representative from SKW, we're gonna drive that piece right there. It's for the survey for that. The wording, you should see the wording in there for what it's gonna cover.
On this
On the
ordinance.
that Sharon drew up, an MOU.
And this was reviewed by you, Mr. Rapp?
Which one is
The
that?
transportation?
TEAP.
Yeah, TAP.
Yeah.
Yes.
Federally funded, it would be 80% funded by federal, 20% matched by the city if we're approved.
Okay.
We don't know if we're gonna get approved, but if we did, we would be responsible for $2,000 because the grant won't exceed $10,000.
Okay, so we've got that ordinance sitting here, which I'll let address. I noticed you also found the MLB grant
Yes.
to help with high school and the water.
Curtis will have that this week.
Okay.
Is this the same MLB grant that,
Is this the smaller one or the one that Bob applied for?
No, this is the bigger one.
Okay.
It's up to 40,000.
Bob, did you ever get a denial on that
The
MLB
second
grant?
time?
Never heard back from them whatsoever.
Sal, this one could be different because this has to be done by the nonprofit or the sponsoring organization. So the school or the Y would have to initiate the grant.
Okay.
So it's probably a different one that we didn't have anything to do with it. I just want to put it to his attention so he has it.
That's great.
We can support him.
That's great.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Kathy. Ordinance Committee, Chuck, you're up.
Okay, I have a question. You want the, yeah, okay. I got it. Okay, as you know, the ordinance committee did not meet this month, and so we have two ordinances that need to be looked at today. One being the ordinance dealing with the penalty for the rental inspection, and the second one being the program that Mr. Powers just mentioned to us, which deals with the Missouri Department of Traffic Studies. And so, I understand by reading 3 times, we're okay here today?
That's correct.
2 times or 3?
3 times.
3.
The 3 times.
No, I'm short. What's the other one?
Because they weren't initiated, they have to be read 3 times.
Because they couldn't be brought up at the committee, which would have qualified as one.
Okay. The first ordinance is an ordinance to enact, violation of requirement to obtain rental inspection, a misdemeanor penalty. The City Council finds that Title 5 of the Municipal Code shall be amended to enact a new section to provide that failure to obtain the required inspection of rental property is a misdemeanor under this code and to provide a penalty therefore. Therefore, in due exercise of the city's powers to promote appropriate public health, safety, police, and fire protection, be it hereby ordained by the City Council of the City of Missouri, City of Louisiana, Pike County, Missouri, as follows to wit. Section 1, Title 5 of the Municipal Code of the City of Louisiana, Pike County, Missouri, is hereby enacted as follows. A, any person or firm, corporation, who shall knowingly violate the provisions of Section 520.120 of this code shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, and upon conviction for such offense shall be fined in an amount not to exceed $500 for each offense. B, each day of violation shall be considered a separate offense. Section 2, severability. If any single or multiple provisions or sections of this ordinance is declared invalid or unconstitutional, any remaining provision shall remain in full force and effect. Section 3, effective date. This bill shall become an ordinance and shall be in force and effect from and after its passage and approval. Okay? So,
Now we need
a vote.
Need a vote. That's the first reading.
I move we accept the first reading.
Second.
Motion was made to accept the first reading. Got, call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Neener?
Yes.
Mr. Paulus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
You need the full one, Mr. Lambert?
No, you just go ahead. This is the
Okay.
second.
An ordinance to effect.
You have to read them in full
You have to
because
read
they're
it
not
in full.
posted.
Yeah, that's what I
Let's read
said.
it in full.
In full.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't read the title.
An ordinance to enhance, or enact, an ordinance to enact violation of requirement to obtain rental inspection, a misdemeanor penalty. The City Council finds that Title 5 of the Municipal Code shall be amended to enact a new section to provide that failure to obtain a required inspection of rental property is a misdemeanor under the code and to provide a penalty thereof. Therefore, in due exercise of the city's powers to promote appropriate public health, safety, police, and fire protection, be it hereby ordained by the City Council of the City of Louisiana, Pike County, Missouri, as follows to wit. Section 1, Title 5 of the Municipal Code of the City of Louisiana, Pike County, Missouri, is hereby enacted as follows. A, any person, firm, or corporation who shall knowingly violate the provisions of Section 520.120 of this code shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, and upon conviction for such offense shall be fined in an amount not to exceed $500 for each offense. B, each day of violation shall be considered a separate offense. Section 2, severability. If any single or multiple provision or section of this ordinance is declared invalid or unconstitutional, any remaining provision shall remain in full force and effect. Section 3, effective date. This bill shall become an ordinance and shall be in force and effect from and after its passage and approval.
Make a motion, we accept the second reading of the ordinance.
Do I have a second?
I second
Okay, motion made, second, call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Nieder?
Yes.
Mr. Paulus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
An ordinance to enact violation of requirement to obtain rental inspection in misdemeanor penalty. The City Council finds that Title 5 of the Municipal Code shall be amended to enact a new section to provide that failure to obtain the required inspection of rental property is a misdemeanor under this code and to provide a penalty thereof. Therefore, in due exercise of the city's powers to promote appropriate public health, safety, police, and fire protection, be it hereby ordained by the City Council of the City of Louisiana, Pike County, Missouri, as follows to wit. Section 1, Title 5 of the Municipal Code of the City of Louisiana, Pike County, Missouri, is hereby enacted as follows. A, any person, firm, or corporation who shall knowingly violate the provisions of Section 520.120 of this code shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, and upon conviction for such offense shall be fined in an amount not to exceed $500 for each offense. B, each day of violation shall be considered a separate offense. Section 2, severability. If any single or multiple provision or section of this ordinance is declared invalid or unconstitutional, any remaining provisions shall remain in full force. Effect. Section 3, effective date. The bill shall become an ordinance and shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval.
I don't think we have to read them but twice.
Well,
Well, that's third, so that's the third one, right?
I'll make motion to accept the third reading.
you can make it into an ordinance. Motion made, second, call the roll.
I don't think we have
Who
to read them
seconded?
2 times.
Well, let's just do it.
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
Second was by Jim Wood.
Okay.
All righty.
You might be right.
Careful.
Says right at the bottom of the page, read twice.
Well, that's because
Would have come
It
through
would've-
committee.
I think it's
If it would have come through committee,
It
it'd
would've
be
been.
right. It didn't come through committee.
It ain't, I'm not gonna, who cares?
Mr. Elliott?
Yeah.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Nieder?
Yes.
Mr. Paulus? Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman, would you like me to read the second one and give you a break?
If you would, please.
Okay, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply and accept funds for the Traffic Engineering Assistance Program grant with the Missouri Department of Transportation for traffic studies in the public school zones and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Schaefer, Klein, and Warren Incorporated to provide professional services for said project of the City of Louisiana, County of Pike, Missouri. Be it hereby ordained by the City Council of the City of Louisiana, Pike County, Missouri, as follows to wit. Section 1, the City Council hereby determines that it is in the best interest of the citizens of Louisiana to apply and accept funds from Missouri Department of Transportation for traffic engineering assistance in the City of Louisiana. Section 2, the City Council hereby authorizes the mayor to apply and enter into an agreement with Schaefer, Klein, and Warren Incorporated for professional services not to exceed $250 related to said project. Hereby approved, adopted, and made a part herein by reference as fully as if set out herein verbatim. Section 3, effective date. In view of the need to meet the application deadline, the City Council hereby declares passage of this ordinance by conducting 3 readings during the same meeting to be necessary. This ordinance shall therefore be in full force and effect immediately upon its final passage and approval. Section 4, all ordinance or parts of ordinance in conflict herewith are expressly repealed. Section 5, this bill to become an ordinance and to be in full force and effect from after its passage and approval. Read 3 times, passed and approved this 13th day of January 2014.
I make a motion, we accept the first reading of this ordinance.
I second.
Motion made and second, call the roll.
Mr. Elliott? Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Needner?
Yes.
Mr. Paulus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Second reading, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply and accept funds for the Traffic Engineering Assistance Program grant with the Missouri Department of Transportation for traffic studies in the public school zones and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Schaefer, Klein, and Warren Incorporated to provide professional services for said project of the City of Louisiana, County of Pike, Missouri. Be it hereby ordained by the City Council of the City of Louisiana, Pike County, Missouri, as follows to wit. Section 1, the City Council hereby determines that it is in the best interest of the citizens of Louisiana to apply and accept funds from Missouri Department of Transportation for traffic engineering assistance in the City of Louisiana. Section 2, the City Council hereby authorizes the mayor to apply and enter into an agreement with Schaefer, Klein, and Warren Incorporated for professional services not to exceed $250 related to said project, hereby approved, adopted, and made part herein by reference as fully as if set out herein verbatim. Section 3, effective date. In view of the need to meet the application deadline, the City Council hereby declares passage of this ordinance by conducting 3 readings during the same meeting to be necessary. This approval shall therefore be in full force and effect immediately upon its final passage and approval. Section 4, all ordinance or parts of ordinance in conflict herewith are expressly repealed. Section 5, this bill to become an ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval. Read 3 times, passed and approved this 13th day of January 2014.
Move we accept the reading.
Second.
Motion made and second, call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Needner?
Yes.
Mr. Paulus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Third reading, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply and accept funds for the Traffic Engineering Assistance Program grant with the Missouri Department of Transportation for traffic studies in the public school zones and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Schaefer, Klein, and Warren Incorporated to provide professional services for said project of the City of Louisiana, County of Pike, Missouri. Be it hereby ordained by the City Council of the City of Louisiana, Pike County, Missouri, as follows to wit. Section 1, the City Council hereby determines that it is in the best interest of the citizens of Louisiana to apply and accept funds from the Missouri Department of Transportation for traffic engineering assistance in the City of Louisiana. Section 2, the City Council hereby authorizes the mayor to apply and enter into an agreement with Schaefer, Klein, and Warren Incorporated for professional services not to exceed $250 related to said project. Hereby approved, adopted, and made part herein by reference as fully as if set out herein verbatim. Section 3, effective date. In the view of the need to meet the application deadline, the City Council hereby declares passage of this ordinance by conducting 3 readings during the same meeting to be necessary. This ordinance shall therefore be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage and approval. Section 4, all ordinance or parts of ordinance in conflict herewith are expressly repealed. Section 5, this bill is to become an ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval. Read 3 times, passed and approved this 13th day of January 2014.
Make a motion that we accept this reading into ordinance.
Okay, motion made, second by Captain Smith. Call the roll.
Mr. Elliott? Mr. Hoffman? Mr. Nieder?
Yes.
Mr. Polis? Mrs. Smith? Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
So be it. Okay.
We have one more pending ordinance, but I think it's gonna be a problem one, so we need to meet and talk about it.
Okay. Is that all you had, Chuck?
Yes.
Okay. Reports of special committee, city administrator, you,
Yes, I would like the council's approval to go ahead and enter into agreement with Pike County on the mutual aid agreement.
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize Mr. Jenny to enter into this mutual aid agreement with Pike County.
Second.
second by Mr. White. Call, motion made and second, call roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Nieder?
Yes.
Mr. Polis?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, human relations, they're not here. Board of Adjustment has no representative. Economic Development Reports, you have Mr. Tibbetts' report. Any questions for him while he's here, or is everything okay? Introduction of resolutions, no resolutions, new business. Okay.
Well, you have to approve this amendment of understanding that
Yes.
goes along with this
Yes.
ordinance.
Right, okay,
It should be a copy with Mr. Tivis's report
okay.
as appendix number 6.
You want me to read it?
It's the last page. They should have copies of it.
This is just a memorandum of understanding, whereas the City of Louisiana feels that safe and efficient flow of traffic and the safety of pedestrians and bicyclists are major concerns, and whereas the City of Louisiana desires to have conducted accurate and timely traffic studies to determine effective countermeasures for these concerns in the public school zones, and whereas the City of Louisiana has neither the fund nor the engineering expertise necessary to conduct such an expert traffic engineering study, and whereas the City of Louisiana desires to participate in the federally funded Traffic Transportation Engineering Assistance Program, TEAP, as administered by the Missouri Department of Transportation. Now, therefore, the City of Louisiana hereby agrees that if it shall commit 20% of the project estimate on the TEAP project estimate form for professional services performed by Schaefer Klein and Warren Incorporated, who has been selected from a pool of qualified TEAP consultants. The project estimate for this project is $10,000, of which the City of Louisiana agrees to pay $2,000. In-kind services are not acceptable for funding for the city's share of the project cost. All City of Louisiana's responsibilities must be monetary in order to receive 80% federal match. The consultant will be reimbursed the remaining 80% of the project estimate of approved project through funds administered by MoDOT. In the event a proposed project is determined not to fall within the TEAP scope of services, any preliminary study costs, including the scope development, will be the responsibility of the City of Louisiana. In witness thereof, the City of Louisiana acknowledges this memorandum of understanding. Acknowledged by the City of Louisiana, 13th day of January 2014.
Make a motion that we accept the memorandum of understanding appendix 6.
I second it.
Motion made and second, call the roll.
Mr. Elliott? Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Neener?
Yes.
Mr. Polis?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes. Okay. No resolution, new business. Any other new business? If not, media clarification.
Several things. I was, on the fire department matter, I was under the impression that Mr. Rubino and Mr. Charlton were on probation. I didn't know that they were, I heard the word fired.
They were on probation and they violated their probation, according to the fire chief.
Do we know how they violated that probation?
Right offhand I do, but I'm not gonna make any comment.
Okay. And also, Mr. Neener had said that he had been approached by one of the firefighters, and I wondered which one that was.
Mr. Ravino approached me because I had worked with him on the Citizens Flood Committee, and I think he felt comfortable asking, and he knew I was chair of the fire committee. So he asked me what the policies were regarding someone being removed from the fire department. And I told him I did not know, but I would look into it, which I did, and then I let him know what those policies were.
Oh, on the building, that, at 401
Yes.
Georgia, how much taxes are there?
It, probably with the penalties, it's gonna be roughly near 2,000.
And
That should be it.
Dave, going back to the question you asked me, you should direct your question to the fire chief.
Okay, fine. Shall do.
Anything else, Dave?
No, that's it, thank you.
Thank you,
Other
sir.
than, can I get a copies of those ordinances?
Oh, yeah. And I say, when I get back Wednesday, I'll be more than happy to provide you the state fire marshal's report.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion made and second, call the roll.
Mr. Elliott? Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Neener?
Yes.
Mr. Paulus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yay.
Mr. White? Mr. Wood?
Thank you all for coming on it. Nice night.
Yeah, Bob.